The vastness of space was pierced by a brilliant beam of light, cutting through the darkness as it descended towards Earth. The ship, sleek and metallic, glimmered as it breached the planet's atmosphere. This wasn't an ordinary spacecraft. It was an intergalactic vessel from the distant galaxy of Urkali. Within it were three beings, each with their own unique purpose: Zerna, Korak, and Velair. Their names were unknown on Earth, just like their origins. Zerna, the leader, sat in the captain's chair, her tall, slender frame exuding an air of authority. Her eyes, a deep shade of blue that seemed almost otherworldly, scanned the controls in front of her. Velair, initiate landing procedures. Begin atmospheric analysis, she ordered, her voice calm yet commanding. Velair, the team scientist, was of a smaller build, his body adapted for the delicate tasks of research and exploration. His hands moved swiftly over the console as he responded, "Atmosphere is suitable for our physiology. However, the local inhabitants are peculiar. They traverse their cities in metal constructs, yet their navigation is erratic," he noted, perplexed by the scenes of traffic unfolding on the screens before him. Korak, the warrior, was built for battle. Broad-shouldered and muscular, he was always ready for action. He observed the situation with a critical eye. "This planet's gravity is significantly weaker than what we're used to. Moving around should be easy, but I question the logic of their systems." "What are their rules?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of military precision. As the ship gently touched down in a secluded area, Zerna rose from her seat and approached the main hatch. "This world may appear chaotic, but we must tread carefully. The inhabitants might have rules that are not immediately apparent to us," she advised, her voice laced with caution. The hatch opened, and the three beings stepped onto the planet's surface, their forms shimmering under the city's lights. The world around them was a blend of modernity and chaos: bright lights, tall buildings, and the incessant noise of traffic. Zerna's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene. "This environment is densely populated. We need to blend in while gathering data," she instructed. They began their exploration, walking through the bustling streets unnoticed by the humans who were too engrossed in their own activities. The trio marveled at the strange behaviors they witnessed. People were rushing from place to place, seemingly oblivious to the chaos they were creating. As they approached a busy intersection, Zerna noticed the traffic lights changing. "Red light. That indicates a command to halt," she observed aloud. Velair's eyes widened as he saw several vehicles ignoring the light and speeding through the intersection. "They're not stopping. In our galaxy, disobeying such a directive would be unthinkable," he exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief. Korak, ever the strategist, was already analyzing the situation. "This is highly inefficient. From a tactical standpoint, such behavior is reckless. If these beings were in combat, they would quickly fall into disarray," he noted, his tone tinged with both confusion and disdain. Zerna was trying to process the situation. "These people seem to operate under an unpredictable set of behaviors. Perhaps they're more chaotic than we anticipated," she mused, just as another vehicle careened through the red light, narrowly missing them. Velair reacted quickly, pulling Zerna back to safety. "Watch out! That one nearly hit you," he warned, his voice sharp with concern. Korak clenched his fists, his warrior instincts kicking in. "This planet's inhabitants are endangering themselves and others. If we don't intervene, their recklessness could cause irreparable harm," he stated firmly. Zerna, still processing the close call, nodded. "We must understand their thought processes. Only then can we find a way to restore order in this chaos," she decided. As they continued to observe, the trio realized that the humans had developed an intricate, albeit flawed, system of rules that were often bent or outright ignored. The aliens were astonished by the inconsistency, and a sense of unease settled over them. "This world is more complex than we imagined," Zerna said, her voice thoughtful. "But we've come here for a reason, and we cannot leave until we've completed our mission." With that, the three aliens prepared themselves to delve deeper into the mysteries of Earth's strange customs, determined to bring some semblance of order to this chaotic world, even if it meant challenging the very nature of human behavior. As the night deepened, the trio ventured further into the heart of the city. The streets were a chaotic labyrinth of vehicles, flashing lights, and hurried pedestrians. The cacophony of honking horns and revving engines filled the air, a constant reminder of the disarray they had encountered. Zerna, Velair, and Korak continued to observe the humans, trying to make sense of their erratic behavior. Despite the apparent complexity of the traffic system, the humans seemed to treat the rules as mere suggestions, often ignoring them altogether. This disregard for order was something the aliens had never encountered in their own galaxy, where discipline and structure were paramount. As they approached a large intersection, Zerna noticed something peculiar. "Look at that vehicle," she pointed out. "It's positioned in the middle of the intersection, blocking the path of others. This can't be intentional." Velayer scanned the situation with his analytical eyes. The light is green for the cross-traffic, yet this human has stopped in the middle of the road. The others behind it are becoming agitated. "Their impatience is growing," he observed, noting the drivers behind the blocked vehicle who were now honking furiously. Korik's patience was wearing thin. This is absurd. Their inability to follow basic protocols is creating chaos. In a battle scenario, this kind of disorder would lead to immediate defeat, he said, his voice laced with frustration. The warrior in him wanted to intervene, to impose order where there was none. Just then, a loud screech of tires drew their attention to the opposite side of the intersection. A vehicle had run a red light, narrowly avoiding a collision with another car. The near miss caused a chain reaction of honking and shouting, adding to the already chaotic scene. Velayer shook his head in disbelief. "This is madness. They're endangering themselves and everyone around them. How can they live like this?" he asked, genuinely perplexed by the humans' apparent disregard for safety. Zerna, ever the leader, was deep in thought. "It's not just the individuals that are the problem," she began, her voice calm but tinged with concern. "It's the system itself. The humans have created a framework, but it's flawed. Their enforcement of rules is inconsistent, and their response to violations is inadequate. This is why we see such chaos." Korik's eyes narrowed. "If this were a military operation, we'd be facing complete disarray. Their lack of discipline makes them vulnerable. We should consider stepping in before this situation escalates further," he suggested, his tone serious. Zerna hesitated for a moment, weighing their options. Interfering in the affairs of another planet was not something to be taken lightly. "We need more information before we act. Let's continue to observe, but be prepared to intervene if necessary," she decided, her voice firm. The trio moved closer to the intersection, blending into the shadows as they continued to watch the chaos unfold. The situation grew more volatile by the minute. More cars began to pile up at the intersection, with drivers becoming increasingly aggressive. The once orderly lines of traffic dissolved into a mess of honking, yelling, and frustration. Suddenly, a group of pedestrians attempted to cross the street, only to be nearly run over by an impatient driver who refused to yield. The pedestrians shouted angrily, but the driver sped off without a second thought. The scene was emblematic of the lawlessness that permeated the city. Velayer clenched his fists, the frustration evident on his face. They have no regard for each other's safety. It's as if they're in a constant state of conflict. "This can't be allowed to continue," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and concern. Zerna, still focused on gathering data, activated a small device on her wrist. "I'm recording these events. We'll analyze the data later to determine the root causes of this disorder. But for now, we need to find a way to mitigate the immediate dangers," she said, her mind racing with possible solutions. Korik, always ready for action, stepped forward. "We could start by enforcing their own rules. If they won't follow them, we will. It's the only way to restore order," he suggested, his voice resolute. Zerna considered his proposal. "It's a risky move. We don't fully understand their culture or their response to external intervention. But if we don't act, lives could be lost. We'll proceed, but with caution. Let's start small, correct the most egregious violations, and see how they respond," she agreed, a plan forming in her mind. With their course of action decided, the trio prepared to take their first steps in restoring order to the chaotic streets of Earth. As they moved into position, Zerna couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something significant, a confrontation between two worlds, each with its own understanding of order and chaos. The challenge ahead was daunting, but they were ready. The mission had only just begun. As Zerna, Velayer, and Korik began their mission to impose order on the chaotic streets, they moved with precision and purpose. The trio decided to start at the problematic intersection where they had witnessed the most flagrant violations. Their advanced technology would allow them to subtly influence events without revealing their true nature to the humans. Zerna, the leader of the group, activated a small holographic projector on her wrist, displaying a detailed map of the surrounding area. We'll focus on the most dangerous behaviors first: running red lights, reckless driving, and pedestrian endangerment. Velayer, you handle the traffic signals. Korak, manage the drivers. I'll monitor the situation and provide support as needed, she instructed, her voice calm but authoritative. Velayer nodded and moved towards the nearest traffic light. With a few quick adjustments on his wrist device, he synchronized the lights to ensure that they changed in a more orderly fashion, reducing the likelihood of accidents. The lights now operated with precision, and the once chaotic intersection began to show signs of improvement. Korak, meanwhile, positioned himself near a group of particularly aggressive drivers. He used his advanced alien strength and agility to physically move vehicles that were blocking the road, placing them in more appropriate positions without the drivers even realizing what was happening. To the humans, it appeared as if their cars were moving on their own, a phenomenon that left them confused but compliant. One driver, a particularly impatient man in a sports car, attempted to run a red light. Korak swiftly intervened, using a small energy field to stop the car in its tracks. The driver, bewildered, looked around in shock as his vehicle refused to move forward. "Not so fast, human," Korak muttered to himself, satisfied with the result. Zerna watched from a distance, analyzing the impact of their actions. The traffic was beginning to flow more smoothly, and the drivers were becoming more cautious. But she knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when they encountered resistance from those who were unwilling to change their ways. As the trio continued their work, they noticed a group of pedestrians attempting to cross the street. Velayer adjusted the traffic lights to give them a safe passage, but as they stepped into the road, a large truck barreled towards them, ignoring the red light. Zerna reacted instantly, using her device to create a protective barrier around the pedestrians. The truck slammed into the barrier, coming to a sudden halt, its driver stunned by the inexplicable force that had stopped him. The pedestrians, unaware of the alien's intervention, crossed the street safely. Zerna deactivated the barrier, allowing the truck to continue its journey once the pedestrians were out of harm's way. "We're making progress, but it's clear that some humans are more resistant to order than others," she noted, her voice tinged with concern. Korak, ever the warrior, was growing impatient. "We should take more direct action. If these humans won't follow the rules, we need to enforce them more aggressively. Their lack of discipline is a threat to their own safety," he argued, his tone resolute. Zerna shook her head. "We must be careful, Korak. Our goal is to restore order without causing unnecessary fear or panic. If we push too hard, we risk exposing ourselves and creating even more chaos," she cautioned, understanding the delicate balance they needed to maintain. Velayer, always the strategist, offered a compromise. "What if we focus on education? We can subtly influence their behavior by showing them the benefits of following the rules. If they see that order leads to safer, more efficient travel, they may be more inclined to comply willingly," he suggested. Zerna considered Velayer's proposal. "It's worth a try. We can use holographic projections to simulate different scenarios, one where the humans follow the rules and one where they don't. The contrast should be clear enough to encourage better behavior," she agreed, finding merit in the idea. The trio set to work, using their advanced technology to create a series of holographic displays at key intersections. These displays showed the potential consequences of reckless driving and pedestrian endangerment, contrasted with the benefits of orderly behavior. The humans, unaware of the alien intervention, were drawn to the projections, watching in awe as the simulations played out before them. As the night wore on, Zerna noticed a shift in the humans' behavior. Drivers became more cautious, yielding to pedestrians and obeying traffic signals. The pedestrians, in turn, began to use crosswalks more consistently, reducing the risk of accidents. The once chaotic streets were beginning to calm, and the tension in the air was easing. Korak, though still eager for a more forceful approach, couldn't deny the success of their strategy. "It's working," he admitted, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "They're learning, slowly but surely." Zerna nodded, relieved that their efforts were paying off. "It seems that even in the most disorderly societies, there is potential for improvement. We'll continue to monitor the situation and intervene as necessary, but for now, I believe we've made a difference," she said, her voice filled with quiet pride. As dawn approached, the trio retreated to a hidden vantage point, watching as the city began to wake. The streets, once filled with chaos and confusion, were now flowing more smoothly, a testament to the aliens' intervention. "We've done well here," Valea remarked, a rare smile crossing his face. "Perhaps there's hope for these humans after all." Zerna smiled in agreement, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "Our mission is far from over, but tonight, we've taken the first step. We'll continue to guide them, to show them the benefits of order and discipline. In time, they may even come to understand the value of the rules they've created," she said, her voice filled with determination. As they watched the city come to life, Zerna, Velayer, and Korik knew that their work on Earth was just beginning. But for now, they had brought a small measure of order to the chaos, and that was enough. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.